Matt LaFleur has finally found his match with Jeff Hafley.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Jeff Hafley makes Matt LaFleur's third defensive coordinator since he took over as the head man in charge in 2019. This time is going to be different. And we did a whole show about why it is probably right and wise to be at least a little nervous about getting excited because we've seen this movie before. But Keisean Nixon went on Up and Adams with our pal Kay Adams and explained why it's different this year.
What do you make of your new defensive coordinator? You got Jeff Hafley. I don't know anything. Okay, what is that? What was that?
Man, Haf is a cool dude. Short guy, so he kind of got like little man syndrome, I think. But he's competitive as hell. He goes at Matt LaFleur, and that's something new for me. And he brings the best out of us, and we like playing for him. So his defense is ready to go for sure.
Tell me more. I need to know more. What makes him tick? What makes him stand apart from other D coordinators you've had?
He's not scared of a head coach being an offensive guy. You know, some coaches compliment offensive coaches in like practice and stuff like that. But Haf came in right away, blitzing on third down, stuff like that. He was ready to go.
What are the conversations you've had with him about plays like that you can have against Mahomes and what your role is this season?
We had big conversations. That was one of the reasons why I came back. Jeff's a competitive guy. He's a defensive back coach also. So, he brings that. I've never had that in the league. I've never had my DC be the DB guy too. So it's kind of running through the back end. I think it's a great idea. I think it's great to bring him in. I think it was a great decision.
The last bit is so vital to me. This idea that Hafley is willing to challenge Matt LaFleur. And it sounded like, not just as a defensive coordinator, but as a coach. And there are times when offensive coaches want the defense to do a certain thing so that they can get a certain kind of look and they can practice a certain kind of thing. And if you've ever played football, if you've ever watched football, if you know any coaches of football, you know that defensive coordinators, especially the best ones, are a little crazy. They're a little psycho. They're a little nuts. And sometimes, just to be dicks, they will throw in a little blitz, a little unscouted look, because as Keisean Nixon noted, Jeff Hafley's responsibility is to his defense. That is what his job is. And so every once in a while, he might do something that pisses off Matt LaFleur because he's trying to say, hey, you guys got to be ready for this, but also this is what we would do in this situation. And so we want to rep it. We can't just be out here for you. We got to be out here for us too. And a coach who's willing to stand up and say that and have that competitive tension, that is good. Furthermore, Matt LaFleur was in Atlanta when Kyle Shanahan used to take Dan Quinn's defense apart in practice. And it used to piss off Dan Quinn that Kyle Shanahan would do that. I mean, like, show him up, basically, in practice, because he could. Because Kyle Shanahan is that good of a coach. And by all accounts, it was very competitive in San Francisco with Robert Saleh. That was a competitive environment, that going up against Kyle Shanahan's offense actually caused Saleh to make some tweaks to his defense. And if you go to LA, I understand Brandon Staley's career has not gone on to glorious things post-Rams, but Jordan Rodriguez wrote about this. She talked about it on our show when she came on to talk about play callers, which was an incredible series. But Brandon Staley and Sean McVay went at it in practice. Those practices were intense, and the defense was constantly trying to mess with McVay and vice versa. And that created an iron sharpens iron mentality. It's noteworthy to me that Nixon mentioned, Jeff is not the kind of coach who's just going to come in and complement the offense. No, he's trying to get his guys ready to go. That sort of competitive spirit in practice is exactly the kind of thing that Matt LaFleur has always championed. And while I am sure that the head coach is not thrilled that a defensive coach might be the kind of guy who's going to say, well, I know he wants us to run this defense, but we're going to run this, and because it's the best thing for us. That I think LaFleur is smart enough to know that there's value in that too, in a different kind of way. And this competitive spirit and culture is vital to this team getting to where they need to go, getting to where this team is capable of going. I love this. And it would not be hard to draw a line if the Packers do, in fact, take a step defensively here to this type of thing. Like, of course, in order for this defense to be better, it can't just be vibes. Like, it's got to be more than that. There's going to be schematic changes, game planning, in-game changes, developmental work. Like, all of that is going to play a role in the defensive improvement if there is one. But this is the sort of thing you want to see. It's the sort of thing that clearly they did not have with Joe Barry. And when you look at these really good Shanahan tree play callers, not all of them have found the right guy defensively. Like Sean McVay went from Wade Phillips to Brandon Staley to Raheem Morris, and there's some good guys in there, to be sure. Kyle Shanahan, Saleh to D'Amico Ryans, they found guys that fit them and that were really good. Kevin Stefanski finally found Jim Schwartz. Not that that's a new name, but like that changed their team when they found a defensive coach that could match what they were bringing to the table offensively. Kevin O'Connell, probably believes that it's Brian Flores, but Brian Flores' defense kind of got exposed at the end of last year. Can they make some personnel adjustments? Mike McDaniel hasn't found it. Thought it would be Vic Fangio. Tried to go the sort of McVay-Staley route, but it wasn't. The players, if you listen to the quotes coming out of Miami, they hated playing for Vic Fangio. Hated it. This is the first time where when you look at what the Packers are doing, you can point to other similar coaching opportunities, other similar situations and go, that worked there. Like, I know that the Joe Barry running Brandon Staley's defense, like, okay. But in terms of personality, in terms of competitive spirit, and in terms of like just the schematic adjustments, those sorts of things, we had no evidence that would be good with Joe Barry because his defenses didn't really show that in previous stops. This is different. This is a 49ers defense, but a 49ers mentality. This practice every day is going to be competitive because the defense is not worried about the offense. Jeff Hafley is coming in to come at Jordan Love's neck. Now, not really because he's wearing the red jersey, but like that's the vibe. And that is what you want. Because if you're playing against, and it's kind of remarkable in a way, but if you're playing against the Joe Barry defense in practice every day, you're getting a really good look at how to attack Joe Barry's defense, which wasn't particularly scary to anybody. Everyone knew how to attack Joe Barry's defense. It's why the Packers lit up Brandon Staley last year. It's why they've done historically really well against these Fangio tree defenses. They did well against Brandon Staley. They did well against Raheem Morris. They can do that. But someone like Jeff Hafley, it's going to be different every time. And so you're going to have to see a lot of different things. And this iron sharpens iron mentality is the kind of thing that culturally, of course, the vibes, but then also schematically, because he's going to do different things. He's going to blitz on third down. Oh my God, what a novel thing. That it can be the difference in Green Bay defensively. All right, the players are going to be on the field. Mandatory mini camps. We'll look at some mini camp storylines next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Summertime means baseball. The NBA Finals are here, and you can bet all of it at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet on everything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big one to your summer bucket list. NBA Finals odds right now. I would be jumping on Jrue Holiday to win the Finals MVP. If the Finals ended today, I think Jrue Holiday would be the Finals MVP. So if we're halfway there, if the Celtics are going to win this in 4 or 5, like, doesn't it make sense to jump on that? And the Celtics are 1.5 point underdogs in Dallas for game 3. But why? They're clearly, I know desperation and all that stuff, they're clearly better. Go jump on this right now at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're going to talk minicamp here in a second. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One of the things I always like to do when it comes to these moments, and this is the first opportunity that we'll get to see the whole team together in minicamp, but really everyone was at OTAs. It's not going to be that different. So what can we actually take away from all of this? And I think that's the kind of thing that I always, when we get to training camp, that's what I want to start with every time. What can we actually learn? And so I don't try and take away too much of like, all right, this team, it's the first team offense and they're running with these guys. Like I don't find at this point in the middle of June, not even the middle of June, that those sorts of exercises are that important. More important is, okay, you've got Jordan Morgan. Where is he playing? Where is he playing? Not with the first team. Is he playing left tackle? Is he playing right tackle? Is he playing left guard? How much is he playing left guard? Where's Elton Jenkins playing? Because that's going to give us some insight into how they are thinking about putting together this offense. It is interesting to me that Sean Ryan is just the guy. It seems like he's just the guy. Now, I think Royce Newman has taken a couple snaps with the first team offense, but like this is Sean Ryan's right guard job to lose. It doesn't seem like that is really going to change. So then it's a matter of fitting in these other players. Now, Zach Thomas currently injured. And so it's possible that you may see Jordan Morgan get a bunch of right tackle work. But if he's good enough, maybe that's when they do make the Zach Tom move into center with Josh Myers. It seems like they are doing everything in their power to get off of the Josh Myers experience. They've had enough of that, and I think it's not hard to see why. We're seeing some Sean Ryan at center. We're seeing some Elton Jenkins at center. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide Elton Jenkins is actually the best center on this team. I think he probably is. But we also thought he was a potential left tackle replacement, right tackle replacement when he got his opportunity. Now, admittedly, working back from a serious injury, but he just didn't look like that. And then you put him back at left guard and immediately he looked like Elton Jenkins again. So it's sort of like, okay, well, sometimes when you think you've got a guy who's good somewhere and you go, well, he could be good over here at this other valuable position. And then you give him a shot. It's like, yeah, well, I guess that fits better over here. That's the same sort of idea on defense with these linebackers and safeties. Not so much who's running with the ones, but where are guys playing? Is Javon Bullard playing deep half? Is he playing in the slot? How much is he playing in the slot? How much are we seeing three safeties on the field? Because then that's more about the shape of the defense. We'll figure out the players when training camp comes and we see them every day and we see them in preseason. That's when we can start going, okay, Javon Bullard has the inside track, or Evan Williams, Bottled and Bond, has the inside track at this spot and this spot and this spot. We can't do that if we don't know what the spots look like. If we don't know what the structure of the defense is going to be exactly. How often are they going to live in base defense? Probably very little. How often are they going to live in big nickel? How often are they going to have a dime linebacker who's really a safety on the field? Those are the sorts of clues that we're looking for with minicamp. Much the same way that you're thinking about, okay, where is Jordan Morgan lining up? And then I think the same is true at linebacker. This was something we hit on a week or two ago with Edgerrin Cooper, because early on he was getting run at the will linebacker spot, coming in for Quay Walker, and it was Isaiah McDuffie playing the mic. Okay, so where is Quay going to play? Is he competing with Edgerrin Cooper? Is he going to be the mic? Like what is that going to look like? Where are these guys actually competing? And so that to me is more interesting. I also think this receiver room, we've talked about the alpha receiver and those questions, and I think those questions are mostly silly, but this is going to be a dogfight for targets. And Matt LaFleur talks about it. Like, the biggest problem that they're going to have is finding a way to get as many of these guys opportunities as possible. That's why I think tracking who is making the plays, who, when given the opportunities, is being relied upon. The other day, Dontavian Wicks, wide open down the field, ball in his hands, dropped. But Bo Melton, open down the field, ball in his hands, 75-yard touchdown. Like, there's a reason I had to do a whole segment on Bo Melton, because he's making the big plays. He's making the plays. He's forcing Matt LaFleur to go, maybe this guy should be on the field more than we're saying. And maybe we need to pump the brakes on all of the Dontavian Wicks is Devontae Adams 2.0 stuff that I see on Twitter. There's not a shot at Dontavian Wicks, who I think is an awesome player right now, role player right now. Really good wide receiver 3 last year, with the potential, a la Devontae Adams, to grow into a much better player than he is currently. I don't know that I saw in 2014 Devontae Adams becoming the player that he ultimately became for a lot of reasons. And I don't know that I see that potential with Dontavian Wicks at this point either. I think we just need to be mindful of stuff like that. The running back splits, another spot. Okay, how much is it Josh Jacobs? How much is it AJ Dillon? Are we seeing Marshawn Lloyd being used in interesting ways? Is he being used to run jet sweeps? Is he jet motion, orbit motion, specials out of the backfield? Is he a primary kick return option? Is he getting chances to return punts? The rookies is often the most fun places to have these sorts of guessing games going on, trying to excise information where we can, but that's a real pecking order that we're also trying to suss out. We don't know how that's going to shake out, what the carry share is going to look like. And so trying to get some hints in there, I think can also be a useful exercise here. There's one thing. Now, I've said this is quiet. Everything is hunky-dory right now. Very timely reference, that is. There is one big question we are waiting to get answered from a contractual situation. That is not Jordan Love. We're waiting. And you'll have to wait. That's next. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So when I did the, it's all quiet in Green Bay episode, there is one big name that isn't Jordan Love waiting on his future, and that is Kenny Clark. It would be reasonable to assume that there is a holding pattern until the Jordan Love deal gets done. That the money would be such that you have to make sure you're structuring everything in such a way that you're not getting major overlap, where like the big Kenny Clark deal years are not the same as the big Jordan Love deal years. Now, it's not exactly you have to be one for one. Like Kenny Clark is not going to get $50 million. But Jordan Love is not going to make $50 million a year either. He may have some cap hits later in the contract that are pretty big, but the first couple of years are going to be pretty small. So do you front load the Kenny Clark deal? If there is such a thing, the Packers don't usually guarantee money beyond that first year. It's usually all signing bonus. Is that something Kenny Clark wants at this point in his career? 29 this season. He will be going into his age 30 season in free agency if the Packers let him get to free agency. And we've talked a lot about how the Packers do not pay sub all-star, all-pro, Pro Bowl kind of players. Kenny Clark is that level of player, Pro Bowl level player, coming off his best season as a pass rusher. This is a defense that is well suited to his skills. I think he's going to have a really big year. And so maybe you say, well, just franchise tag him next year. He plays on the tag. You go chase a Super Bowl. And you see where you are. And then maybe you let him walk. Because Kenny Clark is not quite in that Chris Jones tier. Although I thought the Chris Jones deal, frankly, was a little crazy. And I understand you have Pat Mahomes and all that stuff. But like, it was a lot of money. A lot of money. For a really, really good player. I get it. But for a player who is on the wrong side of 30. That would have been scarier for me than I think it was for a lot of people. I mean, this is a position where it can be problematic as you get older. If you have bodies leaning on you every play, it's a car crash every play. That's not ideal. Now Chris Jones turns 30 this year. He's only a year older than Kenny Clark, but I feel like Kenny Clark's game is going to age well. So paying him is not a hindrance to me. You do, though, if he's going to play the 3-tech and TJ Slayton is going to be your nose tackle, and I wrote about this yesterday for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, that actually Slayton might get the contract first. Because they don't have another big body nose tackle. The guy, the Javon Hargrave of the 49ers. They paid big money for Javon Hargrave. We talked about this yesterday. The Packers may go, look, we don't have a replacement for TJ Slayton. We really like TJ Slayton. We went through the plaudits last year on yesterday's show. But technically, if Kenny Clark's going to be a 3-tech, like you've got Carl Brooks, you've got Devontae Wyatt, you've got Kobe Wooden, you've got other guys in place ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers said, look, we love our young guys. Play this last year. We'll see if we can figure something out. If not, we're going to tag you. He plays that year 30 29 turning 30 year on the tag, and they let him walk. I don't think that is an outcome that would be crazy for the Packers. I don't think that would be crazy. And Kenny Clark, like, franchise tag's a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of money. But you'd rather hit the market, if you're going to hit the market, in a year versus 2 years from now. Just from a age and what your market is going to be standpoint. So is he going to make waves next year? Is he going to make waves in training camp? You can't hold out really anymore. He could hold in. He could say, look, I don't want to go into a lame duck year, even if it is for $27.5 million on the cap. I want to get paid. Now I'm not going to practice until I have to. He could do that. Maybe, frankly, he should do that. Because yes, the Packers have Carl Brooks and Devontae Wyatt and these other guys, but they're not as good as Kenny Clark. Now maybe they could be. Maybe they could be. I think Clark's versatility, his ability to play the nose, his ability to play outside, he can play at 5-tech, like he can do so much, and he's been a core member of your team for so long. I just don't know that it sends the right message to your team if he's the kind of guy that you let walk. But at the same time, they just cut Aaron Jones and they brought in Josh Jacobs, and everyone seems to be all in on Josh Jacobs. So when you have these other guys and now there's more overlap in that position, it kind of makes me start to wonder about this. Now, Rashawn Gary, his deal got done in October. Alton Jenkins, I recall his extension got done in the season. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if they're talking, they're negotiating, I know that the Packers have at least reached out to the agent. My understanding is, as of a couple weeks ago, that they had not talked money. I have not gotten the latest on that. We have not had any reporting on that, on what the ask is or on what the offer is. And that's going to matter here too. Does he want the Christian Wilkins deal? I think Kenny Clark is better than Derek Brown. So he's got to get the Derek Brown deal. Kenny? I didn't even mean to do that. Can he? Will he? Will the Packers be willing to go there? We'll see, but they haven't yet. All right, back tomorrow. Much more this week on Locked On Packers as we get into minicamp. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. And over on our YouTube channel so you can stay Locked On Packers.